Hi guys, during the cost of living crisis, many people will struggle to pay their bills and feed their families. Many may not be able to provide enough food for their children and will rely on food banks. Now, while over the last 12 years the Tories have been doing an amazing job making sure that the UK has more and more food banks, not everyone is able to access one, and many people who are desperate may be forced to steal something. And of course, we're talking about the majority who do steal being desperate, feeling they have little or no other choice. But that's not what Tory boy Benjamin of the Bow Group had to say. Before we get to Ben, have a quick look at the Bow Group. It says here that it's a UK-based think tank promoting conservative opinion. And if we go down, it says, the Bow Group was a supporter of Brexit and worked with both pro-Brexit campaigns to support Britain's exit from the EU. In 2016, long-standing member Lord Heseltine was removed from the organisation on the basis that he did not support conservative ideals. He was criticised by the group's then president, Lord Tebbit, for being a backstabber and betraying Britain in favour of the European Union. A wonderful bunch of lads. Anyway, let's hear what the Bow Group spokesman had to say about shoplifting.
I mean, Benjamin, so if you wouldn't go to the cops for someone stealing a loaf of bread because they had a starving family at home, but you would if they were stealing, £2,000 of toiletries, where's the line? Because it seems that, it's quite extraordinary that there seems to be police officers that are actually supporting this campaign to say that people who are caught shoplifting should be redirected to food banks and so on, instead of being prosecuted. Where do you think the line needs to be in a functioning society?
I think I reject the entire premise. If you look at who actually shoplifts, it doesn't tend to be people shoplifting a loaf of bread to feed their family. It tends to be middle-class shoplifters doing it for a kick and for a thrill. And if you actually look...
What the heck? So the majority of people shoplifting are middle-class people doing it for a kick. Now, I think if you actually look at what's being shoplifted, then you can decide whether it's middle-class people or working-class people or people, who are struggling. If somebody's stealing food, it's likely that they're not doing it for a kick. If somebody's stealing makeup, for example, it's more likely that it's teenagers daring each other or doing it for a bit of fun. Now, if the police officers are not going to redirect teenagers away to a food bank if they're stealing makeup. This is just complete and utter nonsense. So middle class people are stealing bread or beans or ham or candy bars, chocolate bars or something as a kick. And this guy is going to, and when the police catch them, they're like, yeah, we're going to send you to a food bank. We're going to redirect you to a food bank. This makes no sense.
Look at the statistics of the people who get caught shoplifting. It isn't the poor and those who are really struggling. And I think it's quite patronising to say that the poor would turn immediately to theft and crime. A lot of people work harder when they're struggling and they work their fingers to the bone.
Yes, they are working harder and they are working more and they are working their fingers to the bone. But because of the rise in inflation and the cost of living, whatever they do is worth less. And many people, of course, are going to food banks, but many people don't know about food banks in their area. And they see something in the supermarket, they think that maybe their child would like it, they're afraid they can't afford it, and they take a chance. It doesn't have to be bread or milk, it can be a chocolate bar, a Twix or something like that. And a parent feels desperate. They know their child would like it, but they're afraid that, they are not going to be able to pay for it. And they take a chance, they get arrested, and they're redirected to a food bank. This is the reality of things. This guy has talked about statistics, but what statistics?
Every hour God sends to get by, they don't turn to crime. The people who turn to crime are people who are doing it for a kick. And this idea that we should make it suddenly okay because we've got a cost of living crisis, well, that's great when it's a large business who can write off the losses. But what about small businesses? You're then passing on that suffering to people who might be struggling along, because business rates are going up, their taxes are going up. They might end up being forced to close down and then they're thrust into poverty.
Okay, this makes no sense. So first of all, he's saying that if it's large companies that are getting shoplifted, that's okay. But if it's a small business, that's bad, because the small business can't absorb the losses. But once again, if the police are redirecting people to food banks, then they're not stealing makeup. They're not doing it for a kick. And once again, what planet does this guy live on? People are doing it for fun. People are doing it for a bit of for a kick, as he says. The majority. Well, obviously, he has no data to back that up. But if the police are directing people to food banks, then they're not doing it for a kick. And what's going to happen is people are going to become more and more desperate. Rising fuel prices in October. Inflation running at 13%. The small amount of money people have is going to get smaller and smaller. And there's going to be desperation. People are not going to be able to just sit idly by. And I don't think it's condescending to say that people will resort to crime, because people will be desperate. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.